Hello, everybody, and welcome to week 4. I really enjoyed the class discussion comments from last week on the 6 ingredients for collaborative partnerships. And thank you for answering my quick question on collaboration existing in your organization or not. Because quite often, some companies say it does, and then when you go out and talk to people and ask how often they're put into teams or asked to collaborate, or once they give ideas, are they taken seriously, sometimes it doesn't really match with what the suits are telling you when you meet them in the boardroom. So that's why I asked that question. It's very interesting to judge that kind of year after year, term after term, to see if we're making any improvements in teaming, like we say we are in the research. So. Thanks for doing that. This week is on norms and models. We talk a lot about Tuckman's model. Get some lecture notes on it. The whole forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. This was before they added adjourning. This is the original model back in the 60s before he updated it in the 70s with adjourning. And we'll talk about that a little bit. You have a couple of questions for you this week on the 5 dysfunctions of a team by Lencioni. Those are always interesting. You guys come up with how you score yourselves, and then as a result, what you think some areas of improvement should be. I always find those very interesting. But first, let's look at some of the Tuckman stuff. In the original model, he came up with 4 steps, and they all built upon themselves. And it started with a forming step. And that's where everybody's trying to get to know each other and trying to figure out what they're doing there. In the articles I gave you, it kind of spells that out. Some individuals are not real clear on what's going on. Maybe it's their first team experience ever. That happens quite often. Maybe it's their 100th team experience, and they're like, oh my goodness, this again. So that initial forming stage is where everybody's just trying to figure out what they're doing there. One of the keys is this little statement right here of no trust yet. And that's because they really don't know each other. They don't know the process. Maybe they are not real clear on why they're there as a team. So no trust has been built yet. And as a leader, that's probably the highest value thing you can do, is start to build that trust from day one. Some of the action steps to make it a little less apprehensive when you start a team is that the leader must be directive in why we're here, what we're doing, here's our goal, here's exactly why we're here, and here's where once we accomplish this part of it, this is when it will end. You have to be very clear on that. This power assertion thing that's one way to do it, is say, well, I'm the VP or I'm the head of this department, so that's why I'm here. I like to do it more as a collaborative and participatory process. No big mystery there if you've had any of my courses before. And say, kind of, we're all in this together. Here's what we're here to do. I will get all the resources I can and muster all the support I can to make this team successful, and here's what we need to do. So there's different ways to do that. Some people come in with an actual org chart and say, I'm here, that's why I'm leading this team. I never responded to that very well. That's why I didn't use that much. The next step is the storming step. This is where new ideas are tried out, and folks kind of bounce ideas off each other. The trust still isn't there yet. People are trying to set up boundaries. They're trying to figure out who I work with better than others. And little cliques are formed sometimes, little splinter groups they call them. And sometimes there's a lot of personal attacks because we're still a bit nervous on why we're there. You're making us meet together. You're making us share ideas. Not everybody's real comfortable with that. They still don't trust the process maybe. And so it's a very tumultuous time. That's why they called it storming. Once again, some of the ways you get around that is the leader has to come up with ways to build trust. They have to make sure that every idea is heard They have to make sure that every idea is taken seriously and tested out. That's one of the best ways I found to get through the storming stage, more towards the norming stage, which is where most of the success occurs when the team confidence is pretty high. They're creative. They trust each other a little bit. Their ideas are fleshed out. Some of the more valuable ideas come to the top because they've been fleshed out a bit. They've been experimented on and they work. So team confidence is pretty high in what they're doing. The leader reinforces that team behavior by recognizing all the ideas, recognizing the good work of those that are experimenting and testing out ideas. And so this norming stage, they kind of get into a pattern of behaving with each other, and it becomes a more normal situation. Here's the key to that, in my estimation of working on thousands of teams, is they start to really listen to each other. Not just be quiet while the other one's talking, but actually listen to what the other people have to say. Once you start doing that, that means you're taking the other person's comments and ideas seriously. That builds a lot of trust with that person when they're speaking with you and you're actually listening to what they have to say and not just waiting for your turn to talk. So that's the most important thing I think you can do as a leader and as a team member, is just listen to the other people and to each other. The next stage, stage 4, is the performing stage. That's where they feel very motivated. You get your high team performance, high pride in the team. It's kind of a we versus I orientation. And they start to get that outlook that, yeah, we're going to accomplish that objective. Sometimes in high-functioning self-managed teams, there's a very shared leadership role in that. They share the rewards and successes. It's not I did this, I did that. It's we did this, we did that. And they also share responsibility and accountability, which is very much different than groups. In teams, once they're in the performing stage, they share that responsibility. This is on our team now. We either succeed or we fail as a team. And that's a very important step. They delegate within each other. People volunteer, yeah, I'll take that part. Somebody also say, well, I'll take that other part. And the leader, way back in the forming stage, doesn't necessarily have to do that any longer, which is a really, really good thing to have. And here's my most important thing in this one. They communicate all the time. They listen to each other. They speak to each other. They seek out each other's interpretations of the data, each other's information, each other's ideas. That's the most important thing I think you can do in the performing stage. So where did all this come from? This came from a gentleman named Bruce Tuckman in 1965. And then it was revised in 77 with co-author Mary Ann Conover, and they added the adjourning stage. Please read this article. It gives an excellent overview of where this came from. Tuckman's model's been around a while, since the 60s. I've gone to seminars on it. I've gone to workshops on it. It's been used quite a bit in organizations trying to build their teams up. So please give all these articles a read, especially this one. It gives a very nice perspective on where this came from. It tells you all about the stories, because Tuckman was a psychologist and a researcher, and it tells you all about the background and the stories where this came from. Please give this a read. It talks about why they added the adjourning stage, which shows that a group life cycle, forming, storming, norming, performing, has ebbs and flows. And sometimes you go from one stage to another. Sometimes you go back a stage because of some event and you have to start over again and build more trust and start communicating better. So it's not just a static linear progression all the time. And adjourning is one of those group life cycle stages that they come up with, where separation is an important issue through the life of the group on whether they're going to meet again, whether they'll be in future groups or teams together, things like that. So please give this a read. I also included some slides here for you on the integrated model. It's a guy by Leigh Thompson. And I like these because it contextualizes kind of what Tuckman was talking about and how you start out with team performance, a successful team performance, they call it, where you have to have organizational context. And that's that forming stage where you have to, as a leader, convince people why you're there and why this is important. The team design, who you have on your team, the team culture of how you run your meetings, where it's either an open communication or it's just one person talking and only their ideas. I've been in both those kinds of teams where the team leader thinks that all the good ideas only spout from his or her mouth and they really don't listen to anybody else. I've been on those so-called teams. They're not really teams. It's just a team leader coming up with ideas and barking orders. But that's on you as a leader and a manager, is how you want to set up your culture. I liked a much more collaborative, participatory, open communication kind of thing. It served us very well as long as we kept on task and it didn't turn into a flat-out social hour. But that's how we ran things successfully. Others ran it other ways and had different amounts of success or problem solving, getting to the root cause of the problem. We happened to get to a lot of root causes based off a lot of communication, a lot of trust, a lot of experimentation, a lot of devil's advocate role where we would go in and say, look, we think this is great, what we miss, and then we'd always come up with stuff that was better than what we thought we had the first time. So take a look at these slides also. It gets into ability, motivation, and strategy, how to coordinate strategies, how to motivate people. And this slide's pretty important. This is one of the reasons I like teams much more than groups, because groups have a very social, they call it social loafing, we call it other things. But what it means is as the number of folks in your team or group increases, the amount of individual effort tends to ebb and go down. Seen this time and time again where people kind of hide, and there's so many people in the team or the group that they don't believe their ideas are going to get out there, so they just kind of shut down or don't say a whole lot. That's why I like smaller teams, 6 to 8 to 10 maybe at the most. Once you get over that number into the 15s and 20s, now you have groups and the individual ideas don't always come out. It gets down to strong personalities and things like that, and that's not really what we were looking for. We were looking for good ideas. I don't really care about your personality. I want the ideas out there, and we'll listen to every idea that's given. And sometimes people are shy, but if you get them in 5, 6, 7 people and they build trust over time, that shyness dissipates and you get to some really good ideas. Some of the best ideas we ever had were from folks that never opened their mouth in the big department meetings. But once you get them in a 4, 5, 6 person setting, and you started really listening to the ideas that they had the first time they opened their mouth, and then it was on, and they were great. They came up with some fantastic ideas. So take a look at those. I'm really looking forward to your class discussion on the dysfunctions of a team, and we'll go from there. So thanks for your time.